God is our shepherd. We shall not want. Trust. 'Tis grace hath brought us safe thus far, and grace 'twill lead us home. Some of you may know that I identify as bisexual. Some of you may find that super boring. You may now begin your church nap. Others of you may find that new or curious information, and if you want to chat about that, feel free to text or email or call. I would welcome a conversation. I would welcome a cup of coffee if it's your treat. But my sexual identity is not the takeaway of this sermon. The takeaway of this sermon, the theme of this sermon, the point of this sermon is trust. God is our shepherd. We shall not want. My identity simply provides, for me, a good example, a good reminder of an experience of trust, a moment of trust in my life. 'Tis grace hath brought us safe thus far, and grace 'twill lead us home. I've known my sexual identity since I was a child, I think, and I just never said much about it. I told a few people early on, Amy, of course, others, a few people. Mostly I was quiet. And then at a point in time, it felt right to me to be more open about myself, more transparent about my identity, more honest with myself and with others. And so at that point, I made a list of people with whom I wanted to share this information. There were 20 people on the list. I decided I would write a bit about my life, about my identity, and send it to those 20 people. I crafted the words and was ready to share the information, and to be honest, I got nervous. These 20 people were family members, longtime friends. But it's hard to be vulnerable, right? Could I trust these people with this information about myself? Trust. As I mulled over my fears, I wrote down the names of these 20 people because I love lists. And I added up the length of time I had known them. Some I had known since birth, some since childhood, college friends, and others. I added up how long I had known them all, and collectively, communally, I had known these people 490 years. 490 years of friendship. That's half a millennia of relationship I had with these people. And in 490 years, I had seen them love the world. I had seen them love other people. I've seen them care for little children and teach young minds and tend the sick. In 490 years, I've seen these family members and friends laugh and learn and grow and change their minds and work for equality and do good. In 490 years, I had seen these family members and friends give generously to their communities and work for the common better and stand up for human rights. For 490 years, I had seen them support the needy and take risks and be brave and be kind and be gentle, and it dawned on me, yeah, I've seen these people love the world with integrity and with deep kindness. And I can trust them. My experience tells me I can trust them. I can trust them with a part of myself. 'Tis grace hath brought us safe thus far, and grace 'twill lead us home. It's the same reason I'm comfortable using my sexual identity as a sermon illustration today, because I trust you. I trust you, the people present in this room and the people of this congregation. God is our shepherd. We shall not want. I've been the senior minister here for 9 years. 9 years, 2 months, and 21 days to be exact, but who's counting? But in that 9 years, 2 months, and 21 days, I have seen you, the people of this church, advocate for peace. I have seen you stand in the rain and the heat and protests for civil rights. I've seen you organize for equal marriage rights. I have seen you proclaim that Black lives matter to God and to us. I have seen you affirm the blessings of trans persons. I have seen you welcome immigrants and refugees and stand up for children. I have seen you grieve the deaths of those killed in shootings around the country and those who died in our community. I have seen you care for the earth. I have seen you love each other even when we aren't so lovely. I've seen you disagree with grace. For 9 years, I have seen you be generous beyond all measure. So yeah, I trust you. I trust you with parts of my life. I trust you to live up to our calling, to do justice, to love kindness, to walk humbly, to give gladly and generously. I trust you to seek beauty and to live with faith. Trust. God is our shepherd. We shall not want. Trust. So some questions for you. Who do you trust? Who do you trust with your life? Who do you trust with your secrets? Who do you trust with your pain, with your fears? Who do you trust with your blessings and your hopes? Who do you trust with your deepest, deepest selves? And to ask a tangential but related and very pointed question, who do you trust with your money? That's always a tricky question, right? Who do you trust with your money? Your lovely giggles help me know that talking about money makes us a tad nervous. But that may be one of the places, maybe the place, where we show our real fears and real trust, right? Who do you trust with your money? So it's November, which means we're celebrating that liturgical season of stewardship. We're asking people to pledge to our 2022 budget and to give to the life of our community of faith. For 9 years, 2 months, and 21 days, I have watched you all give generously. For 9 years, I've talked with many of you about how much you feel called to give to our church. And that 9 years has also taught me that sometimes we Westmorelanders are, shall I say, cautious. Sometimes we hold back. Sometimes we hold back from giving of ourselves, and sometimes we hold back from giving of our means as much as we can, because sometimes we're not sure we can trust others with our lives and our money. We've been told that we have to keep our money, save our money. We're not always sure that we can give away our money. Our pledging toward our 2022 budget is a little less than robust at the moment. Not bad, but not good. I think we're all a little shaky at the moment, and that is okay. The world is a little shaky, and maybe we're not quite sure who we can trust. But here's what I believe. I believe that we at Westmoreland are called to give more than we think we can, more than we think we should, because we can trust each other. I believe that we can trust each other within this congregation. I think we must. Because let's think about the world beyond our church. This week, the Ahmaud Arbery trial, the Charlottesville trial, the Rittenhouse trial. God, help us. Life is difficult. As a nation, we are making our way through exhausting days, old patterns seen in new ways. Men with guns, people dead, an acquittal that may make us shake our heads, and the deep realization that no matter who a court says is innocent, the guilt is on us all. The guilt of a society with too many guns and a love for violence. When the psalmist said, "We walk through the valley of the shadow of death," I think we understand those words. But even so, the psalmist had the faith to say that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, God is with us. That must be our song. That must be our prayer. That must be the place where we feel our own sense of justice and peace is grounded, is buoyed. As one preacher has said, hope is believing in spite of the evidence, then watching the evidence change. Trust. As my Southern Baptist grandmother used to say, you are loved. No matter what, you are loved. Trust. I mentioned that my group of friends had a 490-year track record of love and kindness that let me know I could trust them. I trust you, the people of this church, because I've watched you for 9 years, 2 months, and 21 days prove yourselves to be wise and trustworthy. 'Tis grace hath brought us safe thus far, and grace 'twill lead us home. The trust I have in this church reaches back more than the 9 years I've had the privilege of standing in this pulpit. For 135 years, Westmoreland has been a community of faith, of justice, of diligence, of love, 135 years of goodness and mercy. In the 1920s, a preacher at this church preached about the importance of women's reproductive rights. In the 1930s, this congregation created a social service agency with doctors and social workers and psychiatrists to help people through the Great Depression. In the 1960s, this congregation voted to stand with civil rights activists. In the 1980s, the people of this church created a service corps to meet the needs in our city. Westmoreland, as I said, has welcomed refugees and asylum seekers from Cambodia and Benin and Afghanistan. I give to Westmoreland my money and my vulnerability, because I trust the collective wisdom, the brave actions, and the common passions of this congregation. These are complicated times. Churches are changing. Church giving habits are changing, attendance patterns are changing, participation trends are changing. We may not be sure what the details of the future are. Even so, I am confident that we will lean into the future with trust. I trust this congregation to give generously and to reach out into the world with humility, with diligence, with justice, with grace, to seek transformation for ourselves, for this nation, and for the world. God is our shepherd. We shall not want. 'Tis grace hath brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home. So one more question. Do we believe that? Do we believe that God is our shepherd? Not intellectual assent, not believe with our minds, but do we feel that in our bones, in the ineffable realness of your souls? We shall not want. We will dwell in God's house forever. Do we trust God's providence? We liberal, progressive, mainline church types, do we trust God in the ways that we should? God is our shepherd. Do we really believe that? Do we trust God to feed us and fill our cups to overflowing? Maybe, but maybe we trust our 401ks more? Maybe we trust our own political persuasions more? Maybe we trust our favorite slanted news analysts more? Maybe we trust our own smarts more than we trust God. Here's what I can say. I trusted my family and friends because of 490 years of collective goodness. And it's all going to be okay. I trust Westmoreland because of 135 years of collective compassion, and it is going to be okay. I trust you, the people in this room, because of 9 years of witnessing your faithfulness, and I believe that all shall be well. God is our shepherd. We shall not want. For 3,000 years, the Hebrew people have sung those words of affirmation, of holy care. Trust. 'Tis grace hath brought us safe thus far, and grace twill lead us home. For 2,000 years, Christians have seen that safe-making, home-leading grace embodied in Jesus. Trust. I grew up a Baptist in Texas. It's the custom in the Baptist tradition to end a service with an invitation. People were invited to join the church or profess faith in Jesus, and they were invited to come right down the center aisle and do that and say that in front of God and everybody. I'm not going to do that today. But I am going to extend an invitation to you, an invitation for you this Thanksgiving week, an invitation for you to lean in to trust. Trust that there is enough grace so that when you give gladly and generously, grace simply grows bigger. Trust that we will make our way through these days with this congregation's humble desire for justice and holy wisdom, and because of that, the world that seems to be a valley of the shadow of death may yet be transformed into God's valley of love and delight. I trust my family and my friends. I trust you. I trust this church. I trust God, life, love, the universe, to care for us. God is our shepherd. We shall not want. Trust. 'Tis grace hath brought us safe thus far, and grace 'twill lead us home. Amen.